Obviously, you can't talk about Comic-Con without talking about possibly the biggest comic book movie that's coming out next year. That, of course, being Avengers: Age of Ultron. Okay, it is obviously the sequel to the Avengers and the supposed final film in the Phase Two era of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Again, just like the first Avengers, it is written and directed by Joss Whedon, and showing up for Comic Con was basically the vast majority of the cast. Whedon himself could not be there because he was undergoing surgery at the time, and the surgery prevented him from flying. But who was there was Robert Downey Jr., Jeremy Renner, Mark Ruffalo. There was Kobe Smulders. There was Sam Jackson. There was Chris Hemsworth. There was Chris Evans. There was Aaron Taylor Johnson, who will play Quicksilver. There was Paul Bettany, who previously voiced Jarvis, the AI butler Jarvis in the Iron Man films, and who will now play an actual speaking part as Vision, I believe. In addition to him, there was James Spader of TV's The Blacklist, among a plethora of other movies. James Spader is another guy who I never expected would be in a Marvel movie. He's going to play Ultron. Okay, he's this big robot guy who will lead this army of drones against the Avengers, which actually brings me to a possible issue, but we'll get to that when we get to that. And then finally, Elizabeth Olsen, who will play the character of the Scarlet Witch and the brother of Quicksilver, which has caused some discussion among fans, considering that she and Aaron Taylor Johnson are playing brother and sister in this one, and they played husband and wife in Gareth Edwards' Godzilla. However, the panel itself basically went through each cast member. The moderator basically asked each cast member, what it's been like receiving the vast media attention that they are getting. If it was at all intimidating for the newcomers to join this group of people. What it's like coming to Comic-Con, etc., etc. So, and in addition, at the end of the panel, there was a surprise appearance by Josh Brolin, wielding what looked like the Infinity Gauntlet. Now, Josh Brolin, as we all know at this point, is going to play Thanos, the big bad of the Marvel Universe, or one of the big bads of the Marvel Universe, who was teased at the very end of the Avengers, the first Avengers movie, and he will continue to be a very prevalent threat in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So, Avengers 2. Well, obviously, seeing as it's a lot of the same cast, and obviously the same writer / director, Joss Whedon. It's difficult to envision anything really going wrong at this point, especially considering how Marvel has made very little in the way of mistakes up to this point. Obviously, some of their films and some of their decisions have been better than others, and I know they got a lot of backlash for their portrayal of or at least their joke portrayal of the Mandarin, or at least some guy claiming to be the Mandarin. Although in their defense, they did strongly imply in the later one-shot film focusing on Trevor Slattery that he was not the real Mandarin, and the actual Mandarin was really pissed off about, or the actual group that worships the Mandarin was really pissed off about his portrayal. So they have not completely ruled out the possibility that we may see the real Mandarin sometime soon, but aside from that, really the only issue I have in the premise of Avengers 2 is the fact that, and this has been revealed by the many posters and artwork released for the film, the issue I have is that it looks like they're just going to be fighting a bunch of Ultron drones, kind of like how they fought a bunch of nameless Chitauri drones in the first Avengers. I mean, I know there's a lot more to it than that, but when it comes to the actual physical threat, is it going to seem too similar to the first one? Are people going to go and say, this is just the first one over again? I mean, are people going to say, this is kind of like what Home Alone 2 was to Home Alone 1? It's the same movie with minor differences in narrative. and I think where this movie can possibly benefit the most is really addressing a lot of the game-changing issues in Phase 2 of the Marvel movies, namely in the way of there not really being a SHIELD agency anymore, or at least SHIELD having been revealed as this secret Hydra organization, and just big changes like that. Tony Stark. This pales in comparison, but Tony Stark not really having to deal with the arc reactor anymore, or at least not having one on his chest all the time. So changes like that, and a lot of the events that went on in the Phase 2 Marvel movies, whether it be Iron Man 3, Thor: The Dark World, or Captain America: The Winter Soldier, I think that's where a lot of the really juicy stuff will come from in terms of character interaction. And I think that's where, I mean, obviously I know that's where this movie will sink or swim, if these is in whether or not these characters will continue to bounce off of each other. Because if you have a group of well-written characters, if you have a group of well-written characters that with their own distinct personalities, then the script basically writes itself. I mean, if you know what each character is going to say, if you know how they would react to any given scenario, then you already have a very naturalistic feeling to the whole scene. With that being said, again, I'm very interested to know how they will incorporate how the characters have grown in between the first Avengers movie and this one, because like I said, they've all gotten their own movies in between the two Avengers flicks. So I think actually showing that growth and showing how each of them have grown individually and kind of bringing them together again can potentially make for some pretty interesting scenes. Again, really the only issue I have, at least in terms of concept, is the fact that they're going with this big bad with this army of interchangeable drones, and that potentially seeming too similar to what Loki tried to do in the first Avengers. However, one thing that I am optimistic about is the new characters, because these are talented actors playing these new characters. Because Ultron is played by James Spader, a very prolific character actor. I don't really know how prominent Thanos will be in the grand scheme of things, or at least in Avengers 2, especially since it's called Age of Ultron. But you have Josh Brolin playing Thanos. You have two up and coming rising stars in the form of Aaron Taylor Johnson and Elizabeth Olsen playing Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch respectively, and you have Paul Bettany, who even before the Marvel movies was already set as this very talented, very charismatic actor, and he has stated that he would love to have something to show his kids. I mean, he says this is the happiest moment of my kid's life, or my children's life. So that seems to be a unifying motivation behind a lot of these actors accepting roles in these movies, because Jaimin Hansu mentioned in an interview for How to Train Your Dragon 2 that he took on the role because he had watched the first one with his kids and had really enjoyed it. So and his kid had really enjoyed it. So in saying yes, I will do the second one, he would actually kind of have some increased status with his kids, so to speak. So So yeah, not really too much else to say about this one aside from the fact that I have some conceptual issues with the bad guy. I know next to nothing about the Avengers foes. I don't really know anything about Thanos aside from the fact that he looks a lot like Darkseid from Superman. Um, I know nothing about Ultron. Zip. Okay. So so this could just be my complete unfamiliarity with the mythos creeping in to my concern. Maybe there are comic book fans out there who say Ultron can really hold the audience's attention. He can really be very memorable as the star of this movie, or as the star villain of this movie. Me not knowing anything about him, I just have sort of a wait and see attitude. And another potential problem is that with all of these characters, in addition to the new ones, is the movie going to feel cluttered? I mean, are they really going to be able to balance all of these characters out while still giving each of them their moment in the sun? And I think for a lot of people that was a problem going into the first one. I mean, a lot of people were really skeptical over how exactly they were going to pull it off. I mean, you have all of these distinct characters who are in leading roles in their own movies, and then suddenly bringing them all together into this ensemble piece. How is everything going to balance out? But luckily, the first Avengers movie did work out pretty well. So hopefully, this one works out just as well, if not better. I mean, the actors really seem to enjoy working with each other. They seem to be having a lot of fun. They seem to have a lot of confidence in the project and the director. And especially after all Marvel has accomplished up to this point, after what they have been able to bring to the big screen, I'm more than willing to give them the benefit of the doubt. So, Avengers: Age of Ultron. I'm not alone in this when I say I hope it's good, and I think it will be good considering what we have seen so far.